Welcome to Smart Architectural Programming. Mastering list intersections in Python.
So in this case, once we've done the dot intersection method, then we reapply the list method to convert the set back into a list and see whether the intersection operation went well or not. So the result should be 345, and that's the result. So our method to basically find the common elements between two lists has been successful, and probably we can move forward. But this is probably the most simplest method you can do to do list intersections. Method 2 that we're going to use is the operator method. So in this case, again, lines 2 and 3 declare the same lists that I declared in the previous example or method to convert a list, to do list intersections. So I won't go over that. On line 5, again, contains the bulk of what my logic here does, or the method does, basically. So here we'll start from inside to outside. So we convert again the two lists to sets. You'll see we have done set list 1 and set list 2, and we place a AND operator between them. So what this does is this AND operator, it sees two sets surrounding it, and it says I need to find the common elements between these two sets, right? Once that operator is done, the list method outside of this entire logic converts the output to back to a list, and that is how we can have a do list intersection again in a more using the AND operator. If we run the code, we get the same output as the previous one, which means this is working, and it's just common sense. In a list with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, the common elements are 3, 4, 5. The third method that we're going to go over is list comprehension. Now, before I go over the exact list comprehension method, I'm going to do a disclaimer here and say that I'm not going to go too deep into list comprehension. And right at the start of this video, when I mentioned that list intersections is not that important, but at the same time, it's not something that you should not know about if you are a programmer. In this case, I would tell you list comprehension is a must-to-know concept if you want to pursue programming as your career. This is something you must know, you must learn. And I'm not going to go too deep into list intersections here, list comprehensions here. So if you want to go deep into what list comprehension is and how to use it, and what it's used for, you can find a video on that topic within our channel. It should be right up there or in the description below, so you can take a look at that video. At the same time, let's move back to the method of doing list intersection using list comprehension. Simply put, list comprehension is a way we can create a list and perform some actions on that list, right? So in this case, within the square brackets, because we're declaring a new variable and creating a new list, within that we create a logic for Python to run and add elements to this list. So Python would run this logic within the square brackets here to identify the elements from the data point that we established within this logic to select the ones according to our logic, right? So value for value in list 1. So we find a value in list 1 if that value is in list 2. And that is how we can find the common elements between list 1 and 2, place them in this new list, and we'll done list comprehension through list intersection through list comprehension. So when we run this code, the result should be 3, 4, 5, and we get that same result. The last method you could use is the filter method. In the filter method, we use two aspects to it, right? So a filter method and a lambda function, basically. So to use a filter method, you need to understand lambda functions, but again, I won't go into the micro details of filter functions. You can just pull up the documentation to look into it more. So let's start. Basically, if you go to line 5, again, you'll see we have the filter function. Within that, we declare the lambda x colon x in list2 function. And this lambda function that checks if the element is in list2 or not. So x in list2, right? That's what the lambda function needs to check. And comma list1 shows that the values or data points that we need to run this function by, right? And the filter function basically uh, uh, is the overarching function for the lambda function to perform in, basically. So anything the lambda function is unable to find, or whatever lambda function that we define, the filter function makes sure that if that lambda condition is fulfilled, only then uh, that element remains within the list, right? So an overarching above that is the list method that converts the output of the filter function into a list. And then we can print this, and we'll probably get the same answer as before, 3, 4, 5. And that's the fourth method that you can use to do a list intersection. Now, I wouldn't recommend the methods list comprehension and the filter function at the start if you're not familiar with them to do list intersections, because intersection method is probably the most easiest and the operator method is equally as easy. But you can use either of these four methods depending on the condition. Always understand uh, the crux of the concept when you're looking at these different methods. When we go over different methods, it's not so that you know different ways to do the same thing. We're going over different methods so you get familiar with the different ways or the different features of Python that you can use to do the same thing. And it's not to let you know how to do the same thing, but it's more so that you can get exposed to new ways and new functionality of Python that you can do to use to do different things. Um, with that, I think I'll be wrapping up this video. Before we wrap up, George, do you want to add anything at the end?
No, I think you covered everything pretty well. Just comment in the comment section below with the topics that you all want to cover, and that's all I have, Mohammed.
And we'll see you on our next video.